All right, welcome to Yin Yoga. Today we're going to really focus on gratitude in the body. And while you're settling into your seat, as you're getting there, let me also check something. We will grab whatever comfortable props you have. So grab your most comfortable props, like the squishy pillows, the big blankets. Okay, and we'll settle into our seat. So I have a big pillow here. You can use it to sit on if you like. And we'll softly come to close our eyes or soften the gaze. And we'll take a moment to rock forward and back in our seat. And so, yeah. There we go. You'll rock forward and back in your seat, and then you can rock a little bit right and left in your sitting bones until you settle in. And start to grow through your spine, like your spine is this lightning rod stretching up to the sky. It's kind of connecting you to the sky. And we'll take a slow, deep breath together, inhaling in through the nose. And exhaling it out. And we'll take an inhale for the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Exhale for the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Continue that rhythmic breath. It's like this nice natural rhythm if you allow it, right? So letting it develop, letting the inhale grow. Letting the exhale release all that air. And then we'll settle in, stacking the hands over the heart space and continue to breathe nice and gentle under your hands. Having this gratitude for your heart beating under your hands. Your breath moving in a wave throughout your body. Your inhale, bringing in new fresh air. And the exhale, letting go of what no longer serves you. So each breath you have an opportunity to clear, to let go, to bring in new. You can either keep your eyes closed or that soft gaze. We'll rub our palms together vigorously. And we'll open our practice today with a single Om. And we'll first take a deep breath and then one Om. So you'll gather your thumb tips to your heart. We'll take an inhale fully. Exhale completely. Inhale for one Om. And we'll release the hands, open the eyes. So we'll do a little check-in with our sides, and then at the very end, we'll do that same check-in and see if it's shifted. So we'll stay seated, but undo your legs for a second, bounce the knees, give your joints just a moment to relax. And then we'll rebend the knees. And then you'll simply crawl your fingertips forward. So you're in a cross-legged seat. You're just going to crawl your fingertips forward and then over to your right. So you're kind of lining up your sternum over your right knee. You're going to round in your back. We're going to push down into the floor. So you're driving your left sitting bone down. We want to feel a little stretch or big stretch through the left side of the body, the back of the rib cage, the left waist. You might even hike your left shoulder up by your ear a little bit and just notice, can you direct your breath into the left side of your body? And then we'll walk our hands back to center and then over to the second side. Same sort of thing, you'll square your shoulders over that left knee, and then you'll just kind of gently round the back, but instead of disengaging your right sitting bone off the floor, keep it rooted on the ground and then open your back by rounding your spine like a cat. Directing your breath into that right rib cage, right waist. Kind of noticing what's stretching. And then we'll walk our hands in and rise back up. And then kind of lean back on our hands, uncross our legs for a second. And we are going to take a moment to lie down. And before I lie down, I just want to highlight, once you lie down, we're going to come into a big stretch called Banana Asana. So it looks like you're making a big banana shape with your body. So first, let's lie on our backs. And you'll start with just pausing and just taking a moment to feel that ground lifting up to support your body. Can you feel the earth kind of hugging against your body, cradling your back? Can you find that sort of comfort in being held by the ground? And then you'll peer at your legs. Well, let's first take our hands behind our head, elbows wide. We'll side bend to the right. So you'll curl your head forward and you'll just take a moment and shift your head and shoulders to the right side of your mat. And the result you want is an opening through that left side. Your left elbow will point towards the back of the room. Your right elbow will mostly point down towards the end of the mat. So you're really opening up the lung on the left. And this might be enough. You might stay here. You might add on. So what adding on looks like is sliding your left leg all the way across to meet your right. So both heels line up. You can cross your left foot on top if you like. Want to make sure our hips don't lift off the floor, but both hips stay heavy. And then if you want to take it even further, you can play with arm variations. You can grab your left wrist and kind of pull to the right. You can take your right arm down, left arm back. You could keep holding behind your head if that feels better. You want to feel like there's this line of spaciousness throughout the left side that we're opening up and kind of inviting in, but it's not aggressive. And so you can even put a hand on your left rib cage and direct your breath into that left side. Inhaling in for the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling for 1, 2, 3. And so taking a moment to recognize the left side of the body that we're stretching. So feeling the outside of the lung, the left rib cage, just kind of giving that area of the body some acknowledgement. Feeling the left armpit, the left upper arm and elbow and lower arm. Left palm with fingers. Then drawing your awareness back to the left rib cage, going a bit lower to the left waist, to the left outer hip, the left outer thigh, the left knee, left lower leg, left ankle, left foot, left toes. The whole left side, just noticing it expansive and maybe a little bit free. Letting your entire inhale inflate the left side of your body. and allow it to release completely. We'll take 3 more breaths here. Then you'll open back up to a T, and this is just a moment you'll take just to feel that shift throughout the body. Maybe the left side feels different than the right. Notice what qualities show up in your body. Then we'll do the other side. So taking the hands again behind your head, now we're opening the right side of the body. So that means you'll lift your head up, you'll shift your head and shoulders a bit off to the left side of the mat. So you want your right elbow pointing way far to the back of the room, and your left elbow will roughly point towards the front of the mat. Feeling that opening across the right side. You can stay here or add on by sliding your right leg across, maybe even hooking it on top of your left leg. You're welcome to play with arms. You could take one arm back, one arm down. You could take your arms as cactus arms against the floor. You could even wrap your left arm across your right rib cage and direct your attention to that right lung, breathing into that right side. So whatever it is we love, we give attention to, mostly, right? And so we can really give that right rib cage some love by just putting all our focus there. We'll take 3 more breaths here. We'll come back out to a nice wide stance again. Arms and legs wide, star pose. Feel what opened up, what moved through your body. And then we'll pick up our feet. Feet are on the earth. You'll hug your knees into your chest and rock across the back of your hips. And we'll roll over to the side and make our way up, and we'll come all the way up and have a seat. And we're going to do a seated stretch now, a seated posture. So you'll set up how I am. So you have your right knee bent and the sole of your foot, your right foot against your left inner thigh. Your left leg is just slightly out, kind of to the left, not all the way out like a middle split, okay, just a little bit off. You'll have a variety of options in how you choose to prop yourself. The first one being, if sitting up, already you can feel it sitting up like this, you can feel tension in your hip flexors. We want to remedy that. So you want to sit on a prop, and that usually will ease any discomfort in your hips. All right, so once you do that, if you need to do that, then we'll decide how we're going to prop ourselves as we hang out in a side bend next. So we're going to side bend towards our straight leg, our left leg. So something like this. And I would recommend, if you happen to have a block, use it for this. So you can take a block on the tallest setting behind your straight leg, take your left elbow onto that block, and then support your head with your hand. And what we're looking to find is the same side bend feeling we were feeling lying on the back, but now we're seated. So if you take your hand to your hip and kind of hike your shoulder up, and you kind of lean back or you lean forward, you can kind of decide how much, what angle you want to rest your torso in as you stay here. And you might stay here, you might take an arm overhead or tuck it behind your back. If you don't have a block, you can totally prop yourself other ways. So I have a pillow, I'm just gonna fold it, set it on top of my straight leg. And then from here, you can kind of feel the support of that prop. You might take a few different props and, you know, make use of that. Like if you have kind of a strange prop, like a holster, you know, you can just set it on top of your thigh. So we're gonna hang out here for about a minute, maybe a little bit more than a minute. And initially, you might just find your way into kind of a mellow version of this prop. But then maybe like a few breaths in, you want to explore more. The arm rests over your head. You can do that. Just make sure you can relax your shoulder. Yeah, so I'm going to be here. And the important thing is for your neck to stay relaxed. That's how you know how to prop yourself, is when in doubt, more props under your elbow to relax your neck. And then again, directing your focus on that right lung, that right rib cage. Giving it lots of your attention. Being grateful for every breath. So what does gratitude feel like? Whatever it means for you. So gratitude might feel like in the body, this warmth in your heart, this feeling of just unwavering sort of groundedness in the moment. But I invite you to be curious, what does gratitude feel like in your body today as we kind of explore that? So if you simply think of something grateful, that'll spark gratitude. And then you might be able to feel that within your body. So we'll take 4 more breaths here. Take your right arm out to the side, pull yourself up with an invisible handle, and then we'll change out our legs. So you can lean back on your hands, extend both legs long, bounce the knees for a moment before we switch legs. And I also forgot to mention on the first side, so we'll go ahead and switch out our legs, right leg straight, left knee is bent. If you ever feel tenderness in your knees here, you can always put a prop under whichever knee you might feel the discomfort, and that might really help. Okay, so remember, you can always do that. All right, so we're going to take it into another side bend to the right this time. So you could also, if you don't want to bother with a prop, you could bend your right knee enough to make a shelf for your elbow to rest on. So the leg would stay active. You would not get a hamstring stretch out of it, but it might remedy if you don't have the right props. So we'll decide where we want to rest our arm, maybe hand to hip, shoulder lifts up. You can also, could do something a little different with props on the second side as needed. This side might need a slightly different things. You can take your left arm behind your back, and then eventually, as it feels right, you can take your arm over your head. You can, of course, use that block if you have one. And then once you settle into your side bend, if you angle your body a bit back, a bit forward, you might feel that slight variation in the stretch. You want to stick to what feels like just enough effort that you can sustain. Directing your focus on that left lung, giving it your undivided attention for these next 10 breaths. And then before you come out of this pose, take your left arm out to the side, then grab an invisible handle, pull on that handle. We'll rise back up and you can stretch your legs long again. Just take that time to reset, regroup. We will be addressing the hips next. We're going to come into a pose that's similar to pigeon, but technically in Yin Yoga, it's called Sleeping Swan. And I'll guide you through Sleeping Swan. But if you already know that pigeon / Sleeping Swan does not work for your knees, I'm going to go ahead and show you the alternative first. So you can always come into that instead. So it's number 4 on the back. Now, if you have some props, you can integrate number 4 with props, so it's even easier. So I'm just going to stack a bunch of the props that I have for the number 4 stretch. You're going to lie on your back. You're going to take your left foot on your props and then the right ankle over the left thigh. And so the reason why you might prop under your foot is so there's no effort in your arms and you can just hang out and get that outer hip stretch on the right. So this would be the alternative to Sleeping Swan. Okay, so knowing that, now we're going to get into Sleeping Swan. I'm going to use a pillow for this, and then I recommend padding your knees with a blanket. I have my blanket already out. I'm going to come to tabletop. And we'll take a moment to set our wrists under our shoulders here. Slide your right knee just behind your right wrist and sweep your right foot across your mat. And so we want to kind of make this diagonal with our shin across our mat. And then you can slide your left leg long behind you. So kind of crawl your foot back. And you want to make sure the leg is straight back, not off to the side. If you're using a prop, you'll hug your prop under your belly and you'll fold into yourself. Now, I'll give you a second way you can use another prop or instead of. You can take another prop, like I have this blanket here. I'm gonna fold it a couple times and stick it under my right glute. What that does is take just a little extra pressure off the leg, so the outer hip stretch is a little less intense. It's a little more sustainable. So yeah, that's what we're going for, is more or less this outer right hip glute stretch. And you can also, you know, not do any props, but I would recommend propping at least under your torso if your shoulders tend to clench up. We're going to be here to stay for a few minutes. So this is our longer held pose today. So I invite you to really just be a little nitpicky with yourself. How do you exactly want to prop yourself here? What is the most comfortable kind of version? And then we'll settle into it. And on this pose, we'll focus on the outer right hip, giving that area lots of attention, lots of love. Lots of space and time to unwind at its own pace. The rhythm of the breath can act as a soothing balm for that right hip where you're noticing sensation. Imagine the breath could move into that area of the body and soothe it. And then take a body scan, especially in the upper body. Notice if the neck and shoulders are gripping or tensing. Can you adjust your body in a way that softens all of that, just 1% more? And watching sensation with your mind's eye, noticing the internal experience and how it might start to shift after a while. Maybe there's a feeling of vibration growing or warmth, or maybe the sensation has moved. There's a whole world of experiences and sensations on the inside. This is what's so wonderful about yin, is you can be still and be quiet and still notice all kinds of things. So I'll let you be in silence for about 1 more minute, and I'll ding the bowl when it's time to come out. So we'll carefully come out of this pose, and we will make our way to our back next. So you could roll off your mat to the side if you like. We're going to revisit that star pose. So once you lie on your back, spread the arms and legs rather wide, take up space. Notice how that feels throughout the body. Maybe you can feel that blood flowing down your right leg, kind of representing itself as warmth or maybe a tingling in your foot. Whew. I had no idea I needed that today. Oh. And then you might feel like one leg is longer than the other. So I always like to bring my feet together and kind of look down and see if that is true. I'd say 2 millimeters. And then before we move on, let's scoop our knees into the chest and rock across the back of the hips for a moment. And then you'll roll all the way over to one side again and we'll revisit. So if you're taking number 4 stretch on your back, obviously you would stay on your back and do the other side now. Otherwise, if you're joining me for sleeping swan, we'll come up and we'll do the other side. So what that looks like is hands and knees, tabletop. And we'll slide our left knee behind the left wrist. Sweep your left foot across your mat, making this diagonal shape. And we'll tuck our back toes under, crawl your right leg way far back, and then untuck your back toes. And then gather whatever props you might like. I think more props are better. It's because we're going to be here for a while. You can stick a prop under your left glute. You can stick a prop under your torso. You could do both. You could do one. You could do none. But the point of the props is just to make this more sustainable for longer. So I will specifically something around the chest or the head can kind of help soften the shoulders. Whew. You can make any little adjustments you need to receive the pose. You can start to check in with your left hip, your left outer glute, even into the left hip socket. Notice how you're feeling here. We'll be here for about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. So I should also mention, if you want to come out early, feel free to do so. All right, we'll carefully make our way back up And you'll lie on your back again. I think my cat sees another cat. Oh, yeah, there's another cat outside. There's like a cross-eyed cat outside. It's very cute, but not as cute as Chloe. All right. We're gonna open the arms and legs wide. Just take a moment to check in and feel that little extra bit of space created just from those last two poses. Maybe there's just more circulation in both legs, more blood pumping. And we'll go ahead and take one more breath here, just noticing. And then we'll scoop the knees into the belly. We're going to stay on our back and keep our knees into our belly. And that being said, you might grab a prop close by. We'll use it for a spinal twist. You might use a couple props. So I would recommend a blanket or a blanket for your head or a pillow for your head. And then another prop, like a bulkier prop for your legs. So if you're going to use a prop for your legs, have it just off your mat to the left. And then lie on your back. We'll give our knees a good squeeze into our chest and then let both legs drift off to the left, coming into our spinal twist. Right arm opens out to the right. You can gaze to the right. You can even wiggle your shoulder blades over to the left side of the mat. And that'll tuck your right shoulder blade into your body, kind of anchoring it more down to the ground. Then readjust whatever prop that might be behind your head for comfort. We'll be here for a little bit of time. So again, this is another pose that's kind of a little bit longer held. So you have time to really get comfortable, be picky with how you like the props to just lay under your body. So we're giving our spine a lot of like a nice little, you can think of it as like a little hug or a little squeeze. And you're doing the same thing with your internal organs, your digestive organs. You're giving that a little hug as well here. So just noticing that. Giving your undivided attention to your internal organs, to your back. They do so much for us every day. Giving them lots of love, gratitude, acknowledgement, a lot of thank yous. So you can even breathe, inhale, thank you, exhale, thank you to your body. Let's take one last breath here. And then return to your back and just take a moment to pause. You could come back to that star pose if you like. Recenter your body in the middle of your mat and just take a pause. And then we'll move on to the second side. You can grab your prop if you're using it, move it off your mat to the right, and then we'll fold our knees into our chest. Let both legs drop to the right side onto that pillow. You can open your arms wide. You can readjust your upper body a little bit to intensify this twist. You'd migrate your body, your shoulders, head, and neck over to the right a little bit more by digging your elbows into the floor. That can help flatten the left shoulder blade more to the floor. You can open the arms. You can do whatever you like here. I like to always grab my top knee with my right hand here. And all over again, we'll acknowledge our spine getting that nice little twist, that little hug, our internal organs getting that little squeeze, and giving it lots of gratitude and affection for all the functions it does for us on a daily basis. All right, we'll return to our back one more time. You can rebalance, recenter your hips, recenter your body on your mat. You could have your knees bent, or you can take that star pose again, just noticing how the star pose just keeps kind of unraveling, keeps shifting gradually. And then we're going to revisit that little stretch we did at the very beginning. So let's hug our knees into our body and then roll over to the side and use your arms to make your way up. And so we started with this little cross-legged seat. And so we'll just do a little check-in. You'll sit cross-legged and then you'll crawl your fingertips forward and then over to the right. You will kind of round your back. We want to anchor our both sitting bones down, but especially the right one. And so kind of push your fingers down into the floor to help anchor both sitting bones and round your back. And have a light little shrug of your shoulders up around your ears, and notice that side of the body, that right side, that right rib cage, maybe has a little bit more space, or maybe you can still feel like there's a lot more potential for space, but maybe things have shifted a bit. Take 3 breaths into that lung. And then we'll walk our hands to the center and then over to the second side. We'll just check in with this left side. You'll shrug your left shoulder by your ear and just feel both sitting bones anchoring down, breathing into that left lung. Maybe there's just a shift. So I don't know about you, but I still feel quite a big stretch, but it just feels like maybe a few layers have been revealed. And then you'll come back to center and walk your body, stack your bones of your spine over. And before we lie back down again, because we're heading into that Shavasana territory, let's do a little bit of a neck stretch while we're here. So you'll interlace your fingers. If you need to sit on a prop, you might want to do that. You'll interlace your fingers right at the back of your skull. And you'll push your head back into your hands and you'll open your elbows wide. So here's your little back bend. And then you'll do the opposite. You'll draw your chin into your chest, elbows point forward, and then you start to round into yourself. So we're stretching the back of our neck. And then you'll repeat that. Push your skull back into your hand, elbows wide, heart lifts. Exhale, rounds. If this isn't working for your shoulders, another variation, fingertips behind your ears, that'll help keep the shoulders down. Elbows point forward as you draw your chin into your chest. The next time we draw our chin to our chest, we're going to stay like that. And you're just lightly pushing on the back of your skull, encouraging a longer neck, back of the neck. And we'll drop our right elbow down and then come back to center and then drop your left elbow down. So you're flexing your neck, you're drawing your chin to your chest, and then there's a slight twist happening from your neck. You might hear a bunch of crunchies or pops or all kinds of odd sounds. We're working through some tension. We'll do one more each side. And then once you're evened out, push your skull back into your hands. And then you'll kind of release your hands. And then last week we played with wrist stuff. So let's just do one wrist thing while we're seated and then we'll lie down. So you'll bring your palms together. You'll interlace your fingers. You'll keep your palms together, keep the heels of your hands together. And you're going to take this very slow, deliberate circle of both hands around both wrists. And you might start to experience a little or a lot of discomfort in those ligaments surrounding the wrists, surrounding in the hands. So that might feel like rubber bands snapping over bone, or little zings, little lightning bolts. Whatever shows up is completely normal. If you feel nothing at all, I encourage you to go slower and make your circle a bit larger. And then after you've circled one way, we'll go the other way. And actively hold your hands together. Squeeze your hands together. Ooh. You might notice it's a fine circle except for that one spot that's real jagged. We'll take 2 more circles going the second direction. Ooh. And then we'll just shake it out, shake it out, shake out the hands, shake out the arms, shake out the shoulders, and then we'll lie on our back. Okay, one pose before we rest in Shavasana. I'm gonna offer legs up the wall. You can do it at the wall or you could do it away from the wall. If you're not sure how to do legs up the wall with the wall, you would get your hip right up against the wall and then you'd lie back and kind of do a half like somersault, I guess. And then you would have your legs support by the wall. So that's one option. You can, if you don't have a wall, you can grab a prop and slide a prop under the back of your hip. So we'll find that in the next few moments. It does not have to be a big prop either, just high enough so your hips feel a little bit off the floor and you'll know it's right because the legs are just effortlessly floating up in space. So if not, take your prop and lower down your body. And then thank your feet and your legs for working so hard for you every single day. So we're finishing up this pose, but if you want to stay here for the remainder of class and use this in place of Shavasana, feel free to stay here. Otherwise, we'll transition into Shavasana. So if your legs are up, you'll let your knees bend and fall into your chest. And you'll set the soles of the feet down on the ground for just a moment. And then remove your prop out from under the hips. And you could use that same prop further down, so go behind the knees. You can take another prop behind your head. And then any other props you like, specifically if you want some grounding today, take whatever extra props you have and cover your belly with those props. It can feel really supportive. And we'll be here for just a few moments, Shavasana. to slowly make our way back into our body from wherever we drifted off. Maybe that means some sort of movement that feels gradual, natural. And then that leads into a full body stretch. Eventually, you'll fold your knees into your belly and you'll hug your knees in, and we'll make our way up to a seat. And feel free to prop under your hips as needed. So as we arrive back to our seat, you can stack your hands over your heart, just taking this moment to acknowledge, every time we sit down and drop into our body in our yoga, meditation practices, all our different self-care modalities, it is an act of love. And when we practice that for ourselves, we give others permission to do so as well. So we'll bring our hands together in prayer, rub, get a bit of that gratitude for ourselves once more, really feeling that inside the body. Maybe it shows up as a warm, glowing light at the heart, whatever that means for you. We'll take our thumbs to our sternum. We'll close our practice with a full breath, followed by one Om. Inhale fully. Exhale fully. Inhale for one Om. Namaste.